Okay, I'm here with none other than Annie Hoffman of Annie Hoffman Yoga and the Pause Yoga Studio in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Annie, some of my listeners and viewers know a little bit about you, but I'd love it if you could introduce yourself in your words. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and how you got into this crazy yoga business.
So I am sitting in Cambridge, Massachusetts on a corner in East Cambridge where I actually have been doing business since 1976. Okay. So first this building was my pottery studio and then it became a yoga studio in 2001. But I grew up in Cambridge and I really haven't barely moved out of my zip code. And to my great fortune, Patricia Walden was teaching yoga in this area. And actually my pottery partner discovered her first and started taking classes. And then I started taking classes, I think by 88 for sure. And I also went to Kripalu in 86 and was kind of turned on to the yoga movement that was nascent at that point. We didn't know if it would be like hula hoops, like here and gone. And my mother had also studied some yoga on Channel 2 with Lilius, I think her name was. So it just came into my being and into my system at a time I really was hungry for a physical practice and a practice I kind of thought I could do my lifelong as a lifelong practice. And the pottery began to be, more about dust and selling objects. So that sort of wound down as my study of yoga and then my practice of teaching started in 1990 at the Joy of Movement Center. So yeah. So Kripalu immersion in yoga teacher training really set the stage. And then my ongoing studies with Patricia, because I knew I would need an ongoing teacher. And Kripalu is really, as you know well, is like a whole environment in of itself that is a wonderful immersion. And particularly back then, it was a different kind of a thing. But then one needs a daily, weekly practice and a teacher to really continue on in the teaching. One needs to be nourished by teaching on an ongoing basis. And I still have an Iyengar teacher, 38, 39 years later.
That's impressive. Not many people can claim that type of consistency and longevity. Really, really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I think it's continuity. I think a practice, and you speak about Ayurveda this way as well, and eating, a practice we have on a daily basis, pulls a thread from our childhood to old age that, and that's how practice is defined in the Yoga Sutras, but it doesn't mean it's an same hour and I'm on so consistently kind of doing the practice, but the practice of teaching has motivated me deeply to keep my practitioner status alive and well. So it's almost like I take, I receive, I digest, I give out. It's very much like breath for me. I couldn't teach without receiving. And I couldn't receive without having a place for it to go, like more than myself, in the dialogue, in the community dialogue of how is it affecting you, and knowing other practitioners and seeing the impact that yoga has made on so many people's lives. I mean, that's all part of the inspiration.
Speaking of inspiration, is that part of what inspired you to start hosting retreats in Rockport, Massachusetts?
So when was our first one? Vaguely. I know we're not good at
it. That was 2009. No, it was 2010.
So 2010. So, I had a child at 1994 also. So that kind of changed my priorities a little bit, my time, my availability. My teaching schedule didn't really start growing until 2001 when it was my full-time job and interest. So one teaches a weekly class, perhaps. Then one teaches weekend workshops, like let's do something a little more intensive. Let's take 2-3 hours. And then it was a natural progression for me, but I actually had to see an organizer, which won't surprise you, but who said basically I don't care how you feel about it. Where are you going to have a retreat? And when are you going to have a retreat? And she just wouldn't let me get out from there's only 2 questions. I don't care about how you feel. And that's something that's important to me. So I just really had to pin it down. And then we found the Windhover, which I had been at years earlier. So it was in the recesses of my mind. And I think Johnny and I stopped in there one day and walked the property and talked to Ina. And she said, you can rent for a weekend. And so then I picked a date. And so it was kind of nuts and bolts after the intention, like, okay, I think this is a next step for me. And then you and I have played with, we did 3 retreats one summer. I think maybe we said we were going to do a week long, but people they weren't really biting at that offering. So it's remained a weekend retreat. It now goes so quickly. And I think we've become so efficient at our Friday night gathering, our soup, our quarry swims, you getting to pack up the kitchen Sunday morning. I feel like we've developed, it's not just a system. It's had so much care for you and for me. I've had co-teachers. I've done it by myself. It's just been such a beautiful template to grow into. Now we have foot baths, and it's a little bit of a spa afternoon. Other times I've brought Leslie in for fascia and pelvic floor work. And so it's a bit of a template that we've gotten to play with.
We really found our rhythm with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not too draining for us. And I'm really happy to have a place that's 1 hour from Boston. So I have not gotten over the hump of saying, oh, I want my students to get on a plane and let's go to Italy and have a retreat. As lovely as it sounds, I would rather be the person just, sweeping the floor and washing the dishes and having a daily meal. And that's why my weekly classes have worked so well for me. Then I'm in a rhythm too. It's like, it's Tuesday, I'm here. It's Wednesday, so the practice of teaching helps organize me to be able to build and to give in a way that's not overwhelming to me. And so I'm fed by the practice, I'm fed by the teachers, I'm fed by the students. And I have been so fed, Veronica, by your expertise in helping me set things up technologically, not to be afraid of technology, and to organize the food, which is the backbone of the weekend. I mean, we've said before, some people just come for the food because it's so skillfully offered from the heart and from the intelligence. And Ayurveda and yoga, we go way back. We go way back together. So I feel like we're offering two rivers that emerge at the ocean's edge.
Quite literally, because we're at that beautiful space at Windhover. And can you tell folks why Windhover? What is it about that space that keeps calling you back?
Number one, I'm not into the bells and whistles of yoga. If people have a strap, and I'm not into people spending a lot of money to get an environment like if we were at the Marriott Hotel or something. It's a very rustic environment. And I have so much praise and appreciation for Ina, who started the center, and her husband, who died shortly thereafter, but he built all of these little rustic cabins and a loft studio and a dance studio in the back that really speak to a culture of 50, 60, 70 years ago. And it used to be a dance camp for young ladies. So they could have sold this property to developers for millions and millions of dollars at any point along the way, and they didn't. So when Ina died, her daughter Lisa took over the caretaking of the space, and it has to be a labor of love. It's such an albatross, to fix up these buildings year after year. And now there's an accessible bathroom, and it's really costly for her, but she loves it, and that's where she grew up. And I feel like just the same way I expressed my connection to Cambridge, it's my home, that Windhover has become our home. And in the beginning, the oven didn't work, and it was pouring rain all weekend. So we've overcome obstacles, and it keeps feeling like it's worth it because the price point has stayed manageable. I've always offered, or at least in the last few years, offered a sliding scale, because I don't want it to be out of reach financially for people. And I also have seen that people pay the top dollar because they want to support what we're doing, because it's unique, it's intimate. It is a 10, 15-minute walk from the ocean's edge where Halibut Point lives. which is one of the most beautiful, I think it's one of the seven wonders of the world. The way the rocks, the granite rocks of Rockport, and then we go to the quarries that are built in these granite quarries, which are now, we're able to swim in them. So you can hike in your free time and just enjoy being close to the ocean's edge. Sometimes we've walked down there for sunset, and that ocean air and that proximity to the ocean is, I think, a big part of the geological intensity, the granite, the smell of the air, and the capacity to dip into water. These things really add to the beauty of what we're sharing.
They absolutely do. I couldn't agree more. I'm wondering, though, we've talked a little bit about the experience, but if you had to describe the feeling of being at this retreat to someone who's never been, what would you say?
I would say that one thing I've been studying from Thich Nhat Hanh, who said years ago, the next Buddha is the Sangha. So he was referring to how it is that we humans need to become a part of the network of life, and I mean, I love that this interaction that we're on is called the World Wide Web, right? I mean, we're sort of spiders here on the web, and it's ethereal, but the web that we weave at Rockport has to do with location, the feel of the space, which I've defined as rustic, the community, the people who show up. And Friday night, we spend the whole evening getting to know each other. I ask questions like, what are you grieving? And who inspires you? What's one joy you've had recently? Things like this, that we weave ourselves together. And then on Saturday, we have yoga in the mornings, 9 to noon. We have restorative yoga in the afternoon. And then we have different events in Saturday night that bring us together again in community. So I know that friendships are formed. I know that people feel held in a fullness, which is not just the physical practice of yoga, which absolutely addresses the spiritual nature and some of the philosophical nature of what we're engaging in. And I mean, a weekend is brief, but I think everybody is touched on all these levels. From the digestive standpoint, what we put in their mouths is really rich and nourishing food.
Yeah, I think it really does touch people on every level, and folks feel very full of the experience, and also like it is easily digested. And I think you're absolutely right. We do have friends that come back time and time again that met at the retreat and that so look forward to seeing each other again the next year.
And there's always new people.
There's always new people.
There's always new people. So that interaction, so that some participants become like elders saying hello to the new people, but there's also really room for new people to have a big impact, fresh mind, and we love having new people as well. So it's the both and, right?
It absolutely is. It's just it's funny. We talked about how we have the sort of template and the rhythm, but every single retreat has its own personality over the last 15 years. So we've done something like 30, 40 retreats in that time. Every single one of them has had its own personality because of the participants that show up.
Right. And I think you and I, as the tent poles, we're really different. You have your skills. You're so strong and articulate and clear and focused. And I think I'm a little more ethereal and receptive. And I mean, outside of teaching the yoga class, which is very, very organized, I feel like our two energies, our different ages, our different histories, they come together and they really form an inviting space. Some people I think have learned so much from your offerings, and you've been generous outside of the cooking to teach people about Ayurveda, and then I'm offering kind of the yoga and a bit of an emotional embrace. So we're both offering a piece of philosophy. We're both offering a piece of history that's woven. These are lineage practices, both stemming from India. So that's a lot to share, but I think we also bring different parts to the table. So it's a really full meal.
It absolutely is. So we talked about being open to newcomers, and I know that there are going to be people listening to this that are curious, but perhaps a little nervous to join into a retreat. Maybe they've never even been on a yoga retreat before. What would you say to them?
I would say that if you're scared because you think it's going to be too physical, like a 3-hour yoga class, you won't be able to make it through. I think you will have a successful experience because the yoga is geared for every body. And what I mean by that is I will always offer modifications that if you need to sort of lie down and just restore yourself, you can do that. We've had 97-year-olds in our midst, and the population, I think if there is a bias, it's towards older women, which I am one myself. So I love the 70 and 80-year-olds that come also, and we can honor that. If you feel like, oh, it's just for old people, I think that you will be really deliciously held in an environment that's both relaxing and stimulating. And again, that comes from the physical environment, contact with Veronica and the food, but also the yoga asana. It's challenging, even though the Iyengar method it's a little slower. We take time with each pose, but I'm sure that you will be challenged at the level that you're at. And you will also learn that an environment that is inclusive of older bodies as well has so much to offer us. The voice of the elders. It is so important that we're listening both to the earth, who's our biggest elder mama that we're learning from and eating from, but also older practitioners, I think, help to make the environment really safe. So if you're scared because you don't want to room with somebody else, I'll just say you're not in your room much. It's really for sleeping. By the time we get ready for bed and it's dark and it's lights out, 9:30, 10 Friday night, and same with Saturday, we get up, you can get up at 6. So don't be worried about a roommate because it's really going to be a very brief experiences, and we're not at Rockport for the comfort of the rooms. Let's be clear about that. There are single beds, and you bring your own pillow and your bedding if you want. So you have things that make you comfortable at night, and having a roommate is similar to the history of the space, right? It's where we actually maybe get to have the opportunity, like our friend Ellen who came, she hadn't been away from her husband for so many years, and she came and she just found that she was embraced, and that sleeping in a single bed with another person in the room, it turned out to be an asset. So I think any retreat should have some element of like a little fear, but not too much. It's a very intimate social experience. We're real people. Reach out if there's anything we can describe that makes it clear to you, like, no, that's not the retreat I was looking for. Or, yeah, I'll come see what it's like. We're here to answer your questions.
And that's not to say that you have to be socially on the whole time. So if you are more on the introverted scale of things, there's plenty of opportunity for solitude. As a matter of fact, the mornings are in silence. We don't usually speak until after the first yoga class, which doesn't end until noon. So breakfasts are held in silence. The land is so spacious. There's plenty of little benches off to the side, or you can go on a walk or take some time. There's free time in the afternoon on Saturday. So if you just really feel like you need to decompress, been around too many people, because that totally can happen, especially if you're not used to it, then there's time baked in for all of that and more. So don't feel like, if you're like, oh wow, I'm not used to being that social, you can be very choiceful about what you need and what you want to get out of the experience.
Yes, and if you want to stay after Sunday, the workshop ends sort of officially around 1 after lunch, but if you want to keep your car parked there, walk to Halibut Point and have a lovely afternoon, or invite your family to come, or friends to come and meet you, and they can park in the space too. Just saying, parking is by fee if you go to the Halibut Point parking lot. You could stay Sunday afternoon and make, a nice hiking, swimming day of it.
Absolutely. Hey, after all these years of hosting retreats, what continues to surprise or move you?
Just watching it unfold. I mean, we make the plans and you buy the food, and I come up with some some sequences, some questions. I like to have a theme. Like one year it was really just coming home. What does home mean to us? So I like all that preparation, but then watching it unfold is always surprising that it works, that it just works, that people are willing to pair with each other, that people are coming to the yoga studio, that they're able to rest their bodies and open to this practice, which is so nourishing. But it has to unfold. And I always feel energized. When I drive my car back over the bridge at the end, I'm never depleted. I'm never exhausted myself. And I think you've learned how to sort of have an exit that creates that for you as well, that you gather yourself in such an efficient way that it's not something that just drags on and on, So it continues to feel like what I want to offer. I wouldn't do it without you, but you seem to be willing to be along for the ride, the accompaniment. What would you say? What keeps you coming?
Well, because it's what we've been doing every year. It's like a tradition. Like that's what summer is. Summer is retreat season, and it starts with Rockport, and it usually ends in Canada, but there's another Rockport in between. And that actually is something important for listeners to know. The retreats this year are June 13th through the 15th. And I'm looking at my calendar, August 22nd through the 24th. As of the time of this recording, there is 1 spot left open in June and 5 spots left open in August, Annie?
I think 6. Somebody just signed up.
Yeah, so six spots open in August, only 1 left for June. So if that's your preference, you need to contact Annie at anniehoffmanyoga.com. I will put everything in the show notes. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know where to go, just click on the link below. But the other thing that keeps me coming back, Annie, is you. Really. And getting to create this with you and sort of watch it all. It's just similar to you. I'll watch it all unfold with this kind of like, it's always a challenge, right? Like, can we pull it off again? Can everyone get the same level of excellence that we've been providing again? And sure enough, every single time I'd like to think we manage to raise the bar just a little bit higher, and we get a little bit better and things get a little bit more smooth.
It's the way, like the soup, we put the spices, but it has to steep. Yeah. And when it steeps, it actually tastes better, over time. I hope that's what's happening.
I think it is what's happening. And I think the feedback we get year after year is how much nourishment folks get spiritually, mentally, physically out of being in this experience. And you haven't experienced the silence of Rockport until you're in that field first thing in the morning and the fog is just lifting and you're waiting for your friends to come get in the car to go swim at the quarry. Like there's just something so beautiful about that pin drop silence where maybe there's a wild turkey or a deer, but it's so peaceful. And I think people need that quietness, and we try to keep the container very pure. We try not to talk about politics if we can. We try to leave all the outside riffraff at the door, right? We try to keep it very peaceful and nourishing, where maybe you don't even turn your phone on the whole time, or maybe you only have it out to take pictures, but you're giving yourself that break. And I think that's part of why I like to come back too, is I like to see people getting the opportunity to unplug from the world outside the gate and just come onto campus and be there with us and just with us instead of all the external.
Yes, it's a refuge, and it is a retreat. It is a quieting and a settling, and it's not just a silent retreat, but I love what you said about the balance, that you can kind of lean into one or the other, or make use of both. And I think it's interesting, you might come because you want the silence, but then you're drawn into conversation because it's nourishing. Or you might come really being somebody who likes community and friends, but you might take this opportunity to be a little more solo. So, you'll probably surprise yourself too.
Absolutely. Annie, are there any last things you'd like to say about the retreat?
Can't think of anything.
Well, and then maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that please come, please, if you're moved at all, please join us. We'd love to have you.
Well, I just thought of one thing. I teach classes online and in person here in Cambridge. So if you're wondering, like, what kind of yoga do I teach? It's some sort of a blend between somatics and Iyengar yoga. Feel free to come to any classes beforehand, have a taste. If you don't want to jump into a weekend, but you want a taste of the yoga, please join me online. You can come to any of my classes. I think there are 5 of them online. And I teach my Wednesdays at 10 here at Cambridge are open, and 3 o'clock, a somatics class on Thursday is open. So if you want to have a taste before jumping in, please come find me.
A link to all of that down below. So if folks are interested, they'll be able to just click on that and find your schedule of classes. And then, yeah, just if you are curious, you want to know more, reach out to Annie, reach out to me. Feel free. Don't be discouraged if you're like, oh, I wanted June. August is such a glorious time to be there. So I highly recommend either one is great. But I think August is this like saturation of summer that comes that's so beautiful. Yeah, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us. And Annie, thank you so much for being here.
Love you.
Love you so much. We'll see you next time, friends.